The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Comfortably Zoned Radio. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I'm in Alameda, across the bay from San Francisco, and having a great day. One of the reasons is I get to talk simulation baseball with Derek Bain today. He's my guest. Welcome back, Derek. How are you?
Hey, great to be back, Ralph. How you doing?
Oh, good. We have agreed long ago that your analytical brain is far superior to mine, and I'm an old school geese from way back, and I slowly but surely am coming to some of these new age statistics that you write about in your books. And incidentally, I'd like to plug your website right off the bat so we don't forget, where people can get in touch with you. It's Baseball Analytics, and the website, why don't you give it, give the numbers on it?
Sure. It's actually, you can get to it by visiting tuatarasoftware.com, and you'll be redirected to my Baseball Analytics website, which I just started the website. I had been...
Spell that out. It's TUATARA software.com. And that will get you there. I'll put a link to that up on the Comfortably Zoned page on Facebook after I post the show. And your work is fascinating. How did it come that you started writing about baseball analytics?
So probably, I'd say around 2009, 2010, I started to have an interest in, expressing some of the ideas that I was, that I was having with regards to sabermetrics and analytics. So I started posting some articles on seam heads, and also got an account to post on the Fangraphs website. So I've been posting there ever since. This year I decided to take it another step further and create my own blog. So I basically have instant access to post my content. And I'm actually, if we have any listeners that are writers that might be interested in providing content for the site, they can definitely reach out to me. I would be glad to have additional contributors as well.
Terrific. I forget, what was your team growing up?
I've been an Angels fan since about 1984, I would say.
Okay.
So actually looking forward to this season. I know they've got some. They might be a little thin on the pitching side this year, but I like what they've done offensively with bringing in Justin Upton, Ian Kinsler. They filled out the couple other slots in their order. Zach Cozart is there now. So looking forward to see what they can do this year. I know that they're in a tough spot with the Astros being the dominant team in the American League, but maybe they hung in there last year. They almost got the wild card. So we'll see what happens.
Do you think it's a good idea that through the rebuilding that they kept Trout, or would have they been better off as a franchise, trading him and getting all the draft choices, all the young talent that would have come from that?
I personally would have kept him. I see him as like one of those once in a generation type of talents, and even if you got 5 players for him, I still don't see how, for the most part, teams aren't going to part with great players in a deal like that. So I just don't see how that would have worked out for them in the long term. So I like the fact that they're keeping him and building around him, and the fact that they've got him under contract for a few more years. It kind of pushes them to move forward and try to win a championship while he's there.
Do you think Louis Pujols could pull a really good year out of his hat and surprise some folks?
I think he can. I've seen it with a number of players over the years where they've had a year or two that were, for them, that you would consider an off year. And I think a lot of times it's injuries that play a really major factor. He's had the foot problems and knee problems for a couple of years now where he could barely move. So hits that would have, maybe been a double for him are long singles because he can't even get going out of the batter's box. I'm hoping
the idea that they're playing him at first base a little bit, and I think it makes you a better ball player. It makes you a better hitter if you're in the game. That's it.
I would agree with that. I think if you're sitting on the bench, it's just difficult to maintain your focus, and you just get your 4 at bats, and
Now some guys
it's just not the same.
do it, and they do it with success. But that doesn't mean if they weren't playing every day, they couldn't be doing it better. Now, I understand he wasn't that bad a fielder with St. Louis, so that, and he seems to have aged too quickly. I mean, like you say, the foot injury, he's a prime candidate to be coming back the way I see it. That's all. And I also want to give a lot of credit, while you're talking about the Angels, to Mike Scioscia, having survived a real change in the way baseball is. It used to be a manager's game. Now it's a general manager's game. And he was able to keep his job as a manager in a changing era. Can you address that a little bit, if you would, Derek?
Sure. I would agree with that. I think he's one of the few that's really been around. There aren't the managers that hang around for 20, 25 years with the same team anymore. There's just a lot of it seems like teams will go through managers pretty quickly now. So the fact that he's been there. I think he got there around 2000, so he's almost pushing 20 years there.
Okay.
It speaks to his, he has actually had at least some issues that were addressed as being him versus the front office, and maybe a little bit of a backlash against the analytics there. So it seems like they are. With the defensive shifting and different things, it seems like they're, all the teams are pretty much moving in that direction. I don't think there's any front offices that don't have an analytics department anymore. Whereas if you went back 5-10 years, it might have been kind of a 50-50 proposition.
Derek, how does the shifting change the analyzation of a player's capabilities? For instance, if let's use a third baseman. He's all of a sudden playing shallow right field in a shift. How do you judge his range analytically? It's a very, very subjective. Judging defense analytically is very subjective to begin with. But with the moving around on the field, doesn't that complicate things even more?
I would say it definitely throws a wrench into things as far as trying to figure all the numbers out. Especially you've got guys playing out of position. The third baseman is, sometimes they're playing up the middle. They've got 3 guys on one side of the infield, and the third baseman's, playing where the shortstop normally does. So it definitely affects the defensive ratings, and defense is already difficult enough to try to figure out, like you said, range and
judge. Plus, you have the added factor that a lot of people don't look at. That is the pitching staff that you're playing behind a fly ball pitching staff? Is it a ground ball pitching staff?
Right, or even from pitcher to pitcher with all the relief pitchers that are entering the game. You know, it can change. You know, it can change between batters or between innings. You know, so you may have a team on the field that is excellent at fielding ground balls, and all of a sudden you bring the fly ball pitcher in, but you've got three outfielders that are kind of stationary guys. They don't have the range to track those balls down. So, yeah, there's just so much more that goes into figuring those statistics anymore. But it is interesting to watch. You know, some of the, you know, MLB Network and different things going on with StatCast and.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
My eye spin. The one stat that I really fell in love with right from the get-go was the slugging percentage plus on-base percentage. And that can work for a batter or a pitcher in judging how batters bat against said pitcher. And I think that and whip, of course, which is old hat now, which is strikeouts and hits, hits and walks per 9 innings is what that amounts to. But that's a very, very accurate stat as to a pitcher's effectiveness. But as is the slugging plus on base, again, both for the hitter and the pitcher in judging how he measures up against hitters.
Well, when I'm doing my when I'm going through a list for you know, trying to figure out who I want on my fantasy teams, or you know, especially mid-season, you look at the available player pool, and there's usually not too many you know, decent players out there. Most of the good ones are taken. So, you know, I'm in the middle of the fantasy season trying to figure out who I'm going to replace my injured catcher with. You know, I'll definitely look at OPS, and for pitching, I'll definitely look at WHIP, and I'll look at strikeouts per 9 innings, and you know, there's a handful that are kind of the go-to quick fix stats. I think that's part of the problem with gaining with the analytics part of things is you can't easily, you know, calculate someone's WAR. You have to look it up, you know, or you know, some of these other statistics. They're just not as easy as you know.
It's not like they're in the paper every day, every morning.
Right.
Or there's no more paper in quotes. It's like, you do have to go to look it up. Even MLB.com doesn't get into WAR and what have you. They have a lot of good stats, including the slugging plus on base percentage.
Right.
Derek.
Right. Well, even with everything that's online, I still enjoy a tradition on opening day is that I'll go and buy the USA Today just for the sports section and the baseball pullout with all the opening day rosters on it. Even though I can probably find that information easily online, I like to have it in my hands.
Absolutely. That's a traditionalist from way back. So you were one of those that waited for the magazines to come out with bated breath every year, and they
magazines. Yep, the magazines, and you know, we used to get the daily newspaper back in the day. You know, we used to, you know, scramble to look at the box scores, and you know, you had the issue with the games on the West Coast wouldn't be in the you know, the games were too late for the East Coast papers, so you didn't get those for another day or two. So. Yeah, I kind of miss those days.
When I was a kid, it was waiting around for the sporting news to come out, and they were always a week or so behind with stats, although, my God, they had all the minor league stats, all the leagues, and back then there were a ton of minor leagues, and you could follow guys who were coming up and going down. And it was always fun to follow former major league players playing in the minors back in those days for me. Derek,
Sure.
It's right at the end of spring training, and has anybody ever put together an analyzation of the effect of spring training records on the actual season? Or
I have seen several articles on that. I don't recall specifics, but to the most part, from what I've read, that basically the sample size is too small, so most people don't take too much stock in spring training. I know for my purposes, what I generally look at is just playing time. See who's getting the most at bats and innings in the spring to try to figure out who's going to make the team.
And health naturally.
Right. And for the most part, I mean, you can probably, even going into spring training, you probably know at least 20 of the 25 guys that are going to make the team. So it's down to those last couple spots. There might be an opening, there might be a battle for a position or something, but for the most part, you can kind of figure on a good portion of every team's roster. But it's always fun to watch the battles and but then 2 weeks into the season with injuries and different things, a lot of those that competition is even not relevant if you go 2 to 4 weeks into the season, somebody's been hurt, and the guy that lost out on the competition is now your starting right fielder or something. So
right. Derek, who did you read as a kid, both as journalists and or writers? Some writers are journalists as well, but authors.
I grew up on reading all the Bill James baseball analyst books, and as soon as Baseball Weekly came out, I got a subscription to that. So those were probably two of the big ones for me.
Is there anything Bill James ever came up with that you blatantly disagree with? Not
off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. No.
Okay. I don't. Beautiful. I'm getting an idea of how your analytical mind was formed. My God, Bill James is absolute genius in terms of putting what he put together. Because without him, I don't think we'd be using terms like New Age statistic, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it definitely shaped what where my interest lied, and definitely the articles that were in his early works, especially. He would, instead of just writing about a specific team, he would maybe pick a question that he had, maybe come up with in the previous year regarding that team, and then he would write about that. So I think that made it that much more interesting. It wasn't just a standard reciting of facts. He actually would dive in.
And incredibly humorous as well. He had a
True.
wry sense of humor. Has a wry sense of humor. Does he
Definitely.
still work with the Red Sox? I know they hired him a while back. And
I believe so. I believe he's still with them.
Okay. He's made a good life out of it. Derek, what's next
Definitely.
for you? What's your next project?
I'm actually trying to wrap up my follow-up book. I'm working on a book titled Hardball Retroactive, and I'm hoping to get that out by hopefully around June of this year. It's basically a compilation of what I feel are my best articles over the last few years, and also a number of new chapters. So I'm actually working on a chapter that really dives into performance, minor league versus major league performance.
Derek, may I get into your head a little bit about your writing style? How, I don't mean your writing, the actual what you write. I mean your style of going through the day. How do you write? Is it by appointment with yourself? Do you sit down, or do you write when things hit you? Do you take notes when they do, and then at the end of the day you put them all together? What's it like as a writer for you?
I would say it's a little of everything that you described there. So definitely, if something comes to me in the middle of the night, I might wake up and make a note to myself. So I'll follow up on it the next day. I do try to make time every day to work, kind of chip away at whatever I'm either working on an article or working on a chapter in the book. So I definitely try to devote a good hour or two every day to it if I can. And like you said, I get 5 minutes, 10 minutes here and there. I might just, crack open whatever I'm working on and try to get another paragraph in.
Sounds like it's fun for you, not a chore.
It's definitely something I enjoy doing. It's one of my favorite pastimes. So enjoy watching the sport and now writing about it. So
okay, I do a lot of these podcasts, and it's come up at least 7 different times where people are aghast at a rule that they're experimenting that would put a runner on second base automatically in extra innings if a team is behind, or some such crapola that would dramatically change the face of the game statistically. How do you know if that run that scores belongs to the runner? How do you know if the RBI hit in is deserved? How can baseball history be kept alive? I mean, this doesn't sound like we're discovering stuff for cancer, but but it's important for people like me and you. How could baseball possibly be considering a rule change like that? What's your reaction to that specific thing that they're experimenting with in the minor leagues? So it's not just, somebody's batting it against the wall type thing.
Right. So that specific one, I haven't really been against most of the other changes that have come about, with the, the pitch clock or, all these things about trying to speed up the game here and there. I mean, I get what they're trying to do. I think shaving a minute or two off a game, it's really not making a difference because every time they try to do that, they're adding another minute or two somewhere else. So I don't really see the point.
The commercial.
Right. The rule about the runner, how do you even document how the runner got on base? I heard somebody mentioned that they were going to pretend that the runner got on base due to an error, but who do you assign that error to? There's just so many questions about it that, I don't think it's been well thought out. I kind of get it on the minor league level, as far as, the game extending into multiple extra innings and things like that, but I just don't see it being a practical rule at the major league level.
Okay. Can you conceive of it ever happening, of people being so callous as to the value of Luke Appling scored the most runs or this, that, and the other thing, and it may mean something to Luke Appling's grandkids and old geezers like myself, few others, but isn't it pretty callous because these are people that gave their lives to the sport and supported it when it wasn't a corporate entity thing and tickets weren't a zillion dollars, that sort of thing.
Right. No, I agree totally. I hope that one in particular never never sees the light of day in the major leagues. And, again, I understand, maybe on the minor league level, they want games to end by a certain hour, or they don't want them to, to continue on indefinitely. Maybe, the concern about pitch counts, not having enough pitchers, that kind of thing. I can see a case for it in the minors, but definitely not in the majors. So.
Well, it's all the strategy. In the majors, it's the strategy of having left yourself short and don't have enough pitchers. It's all
right.
of those things that I can't see them messing with it to that extent. But it's like one of those things that you draw a line in the sand.
A lot of teams used to carry, maybe 9 pitchers on their 25-man roster. Now I see teams that are carrying 12, 13 pitchers, and only, 2 or 3 bench players.
It used to be not uncommon.
Right? And you'd have a guy that could pitch 3-4 innings in a blowout.
Yeah, exactly. So guys went more innings. There's all kinds of considerations, but the strategy for a manager is not to leave yourself short. That sort of
right.
thing. And, hey, I enjoy your company on the phone. So let's do it again real soon. Anything in closing that you'd like to put out there to the world? Podcasting can be cathartic in a lot of ways. You're not... no restrictions on what you can say and how you can say it. But more importantly, is there anything you want to put out to the world that you couldn't put out on any other media?
Right. I would just say as far as, the baseball is concerned, is that, this is something I really enjoy doing. So if there are people out there, don't be afraid to, maybe step out of your comfort zone a little bit. And, that a lot of the articles that I do research on, it does involve a little bit of programming and database knowledge and that type of thing to, if I come up with a question in my head, I need to know how I'm going to extract that data and sort it and do all those types of things in order to get it in some kind of meaningful format. So, but there are, there's so many courses that are available online now. So, this is something, like you said, you could write about baseball history if you like, or whatever, do your podcast. But you can dive in a little bit deeper. And, there's just so many, there's so much data available now. There's so many courses that one could take to, even get a, kind of a basic handle on how to look through the data. So it's really interesting to me. Part of the fun is not only the writing, but it's the actual journey through, looking or getting to the point of having this series of data that I can look through and sort it, and maybe look at it a different way than I even expected when I came up with the original question. So I guess if I had anything to say, that would be, kind of, go out there and start diving into, there's so much data between the StatCast and the pitch effects and, there's between Fangraphs and Baseball Reference and Baseball Prospectus. There's so many websites to find all this information now where, 10, 20 years ago, you'd be looking, you had the Macmillan Encyclopedia. You had a couple other yearly magazines that came out, but really just scratched the surface as compared to what's available now for the average baseball fan to look through.
Okay. Derek, you're a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me again. I really appreciate it.
We got carried away. We didn't talk about simulation baseball. We will next time if you promise to come back.
Definitely. Yep.
Beautiful.
Just let me know. I'll be available.
I will be in touch because that's a subject that that I could talk about forever. Thank you
Sure.
again, Derek.
Sounds good.
I'm Ralph Tyko, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'll catch you when I do. Adios, everybody.